another episode of Untangled, your knitting and sometimes crochet question and answer show with me, Stuart from the Woolpatch.
And me, Jimmy from Jimmy Does Knitting.
Good to see you for another week. Lovely to have you listening to us on Spotify or Apple or wherever you are, or if you're watching us on YouTube. Give them a wave, Jimmy. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jane. I know Jane's a big fan, and we've got a question from you, Jane, too. So let's go straight into it. And it is, it's Jane first. Here we go, Jane. Right. I know what is meant by the knitting styles of English, continental, and lever. Oh, I don't know that one. But there are two. You're going to have to tell me about that, Jimmy. And there are two that I don't know. Can you explain and show Portuguese and Shetland, please? I know what you're thinking. Why don't you just Google it? Well, there is that. Well, nobody does it better than you two. You flirt, Jane. I did and couldn't find a clear explanation. And besides, I wish to keep your show on the road. I have the need to say untangle. I love it. Thank you, Jane. Thank you very much. Right. Right. Jimmy, well, before we go into the question, what's that bit where she says English, continental, and lever? Have I read that right?
I think lever is how you knit, where you sort of leverage your hand to get the yarn over.
Oh, I see. Yes, I think yes, like a lever, or I'm calling it pivot in my head. But yeah, I get you. All right. Okay, let's shoot. What do you want to go with? Portuguese or Shetland first? You choose.
We can do either.
Okay, let's go. Let's go abroad. Let's go to somewhere warm. Let's go to Portugal.
Okay. So Portuguese knitting is really kind of cool. Now, first of all, there are 1,000 types of knitting, more than just English, lever, Portuguese, and Shetland, but those are the ones we'll go over today. So Portuguese knitting is a style that was popular in Portugal, and what they do is they have their yarn over their heads like this, and what this does is it helps with tension and making it consistent, because you're constantly like dragging it like this, and so you don't have to do so much work with your hands when you do it. And so what it is it's sort of a type of continental knitting where the tension sort of done by the string in the neck, and then you just sort of like knit continental style with this. So I have knitting needles. I didn't cast anything on. But you kind of do that. And so and around there, I guess there's a certain way to hold it too, but like it's easier also with purling. I think a lot of people have started exploring this for keeping their pearls, because all they can just do is then like flick their, where are we? We're opposite.
Yeah.
So I think you can just like flick your thumb a little bit like this when you purl.
Put it down,
your tension is good, and then it's a little bit easier. So that is more of the Portuguese style of knitting, as I understand it.
Fascinating. I can completely understand that. It's because certainly with purl, how that will help you do that, and it saves you having the yarn wrapped around numerous fingers to get that tension right. You're using the friction around your neck. It's brilliant. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's that. And then for Shetland, there are two ways I think of Shetland knitting, and I wasn't quite sure of which way that she was referring to. So we'll go over both of them because it doesn't matter. One is back in Shetland and like the Faroe Islands and stuff, they had what they called a knitting belt. And what that was sort of like, I call it a fanny pack, you would call it a bum bag. But it's something like that, where you have that and it has perforated holes in it, and you have long, long, long double-pointed needles. Like I'm holding up, for those of you listening, some just like regular needles, but imagine this as double-pointed. It's pretty large. And what you do is you stick one in the bag and then you knit. So you don't have to use two hands to do it. The needle is held, and so you can just go up, knit like that
and down.
Yeah. So you can. I'm doing some weird motion, but like basically
for the viewers, it makes sense. If you're listening to it, yes, it probably doesn't.
Yeah. So basically, it's there's like a knitting belt, and then so your one hand is free, and you can kind of like knit as you go up the mountain with your left hand. Is one way of doing it. Now, what I think might be another way is you can take it, and I'm showing you my armpit because what you do is you take the needle and you stick it under your arm,
Yeah.
and you use that to hold the needle. So that way you don't have to worry about, I think a lot of times when you English style knit,
Yeah.
so this would be more of a right-handed throwing. Portuguese is a left-handed throwing. What I just described with the knitting belt.
Yeah.
Maybe is a right-handed, but I think it's
still right-handed. Yes. Yeah.
And so, but this one would be right-handed knitting, and so you anchor the needle, and you just have it like sort of sticking straight out forward, and then that way, when you knit, you don't have to like hold the needle and like wrap the yarn around. The needle is held by your arm, and then you can, do a knitting, so you don't have to like move the right needle as much. You can just throw and then throw and then throw and throw.
Yeah.
So there's that way of doing it. Now, I will say a good example of this is Di Gilpin. I don't know if you know her. She has her own yarn range. She's amazing. She does knits for like actual like designers. She works for like, I know she's done Prada. She's done some other stuff. She had like a huge like Guernsey anthology that she has, and she has her own designs, and she will be a judge on the game of wool that is coming up.
This is where it all fits in nicely, because yes, I hadn't heard of her at all until the game of wool, because I auditioned for it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I did. I auditioned for it, and I got a call and went for an audition day. I filled in the application form, and I found out about her because, as you just said, she's a judge. And then I'm like, how haven't I heard about her at all in my 9 years of having a knitting shop? A very different type of designer, I think, in the knitting world. And that might be, I don't know, due to her age, and then the being on Instagram, how influencing works and what gets pushed to us and perhaps what doesn't. So I found out about her when I was at this audition that she was going to be a judge. And I had an audition day, and there were, I want to say about 40 of us in London just before Christmas. And I can talk about it because I haven't been accepted. I didn't get on, but I will tell you about it just for a little bit because it fits in with what you were saying. Because one of the challenges we had to do in this audition day was to knit a beanie out of chunky yarn. No, actually, beg your pardon, super chunky yarn, and we had to knit it in 90 minutes. Obviously, they had to do some sort of challenge because this Game of Wool show, which they filmed it already, they filmed it last month. Hopefully, it's going to be out this autumn, but it could be next spring of 2026. I suppose when this goes out, if you're listening to it in a couple of years' time, it's all been and done. But the point I'm saying is, there I am, 90 minutes, and I've got to knit a super chunky hat. Well, I just knit in the round. That's just what I do. And I think I'm kind of a quick knitter. And I just managed to get it done in 90 minutes. A classic super chunky hat. They said no ribbing, no brim, just start straight off, cast on however many it was, 42. And about 12 rounds time do your decreases and whatnot. Well, I tell you what, Jimmy, that 90 minutes was the hardest 90 minutes ever. And I came out after finishing it going, actually, I don't know whether I want to get chosen now for this game show because you didn't do anything in that 90 minutes. Everyone had their head down and they were knitting like a loon. Well, what are you going to do on this program if you've got to knit a jumper? 8 hours worth of knitting, speed knitting, that's hard. But anyway, the point was, I only just managed to do it. I had no embellishments at all. But next to me was this delightful senior lady of much greater years than me, and she did exactly that. She put flat, she was knitting flat. She had it not under her arm, but she had it like in the belt, but I think she just had it on the table. So the knitting needle is like this, and her other hand is going in, round, down, off, in, round. Oh my God, Jimmy, she was super quick. And I said to her, oh, that's a great halfway through the 90 minutes when she was clearly beating me. I was like, that's such a great idea. And she said, well, I've been practicing. This was the quickest way of knocking out a super chunky hat. And she had knitted it, she had sewn it up, she'd made a pom-pom and extra features within that 90 minutes. So I better be seeing her on this this first ever year of the Game of Wool, because it was phenomenal. So if you want speed, doing the Shetland way is it, because it is that rhythm. It's just in, round, throw, off, and you haven't got to worry about taking your hand off to throw. You literally are just throwing, in. It's phenomenally quick. So if you want to speed up your knitting, do that. A lot of the ladies at my shop will knit with it under their arm, and they'll just be doing that. And it's fascinating to watch. It's brilliant. I suppose it's horses for courses, isn't it? You find whatever method you want to do, but there are a lot of methods out there, aren't there?
There are a ton of methods. But anyway, if you see Di's Instagram, her and her like assistant Sheila, that's how they knit. So you can check that out. But I combination knit, which is not really a type of knitting that I see a lot of people doing. And that's part of the reason why I can knit so fast, is because I combination knit. So it's just, you have to figure out what works for you and how that all goes.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, there you go. Jane, hope that helped. A better explanation than YouTube for sure, or Google. Thank you for your question, Jane. Much appreciated. I can now envisage Jane having a go at all of those. Let us know which approach you finally settle on, Jane. Right, next question. Another long one. Hey, Bertus, how are you doing? All right, this is from Bertus. Throwing the question out there, completely understand if you're unable to reply to it. When I crochet amigurumi, during the decrease rounds, my crochet starts to create visible gaps. Not a dropped or missed stitch gap, but you can see the stuffing gaps. I believe this is due to tension and have tried a few techniques with no success. Any recommendations on how to avoid the stuffing from being seen in the areas where decreases have happened? Okay. I think this is me answering this, isn't it, Jimmy?
I think that maybe I've seen something where, like, if you put the hook in a different way, like through the back or something, that might help tighten up a stitch. But, I'm not qualified to answer this one by any means.
Well, I can. There are several things at play, Bertus, and let's just go back to your question again. I believe this is due to tension. It can be. And you've tried a few techniques. Well, it'll be interesting to see if any of the techniques you've tried are what I'm going to say here now. The first one, and probably the most obvious one, would be you could go down the hook size and doing your decreases. And if I show you with desk cam here, and let's just, let's just zoom in a tad. If this loads, I can zoom in. Right. So you could go down a hook size from the yarn that you're using. So that could be it. But there is probably more to it, because the essence of decreasing is that this will go from there, because the classic way is in, pull up a loop, and in and pull up a loop and go through all three. But what that means is it often gets stretched, and the hole appears from this one. If I go through all three, the hole can often appear there. So one tip, Bertus, might be to not tug up so high when you start doing your stitches. Now, I know I have this problem because when I crochet, I'm very much pull up a loop and tug up so I can do my train through the tunnel. So I'm actually notoriously loose crocheter. Can you see those holes there already? So for amigurumi, it would be a nightmare. I'd have to go down several hook sizes and change my style. I don't do amigurumi much because of that. So what you need to try and do is, one tip is not tug this one up and to have actually a much smaller loop to start with. So that can help. So when you do your decrease, however you do it, if you're doing that, pulling up a loop, don't pull this second one up high, go through, oh, I've just split the yarn, go through, pull up. Oh, if I can get the loop, I'm pulling so tight, can't get it, pull up a loop. So now these three are all very, very tight. I've not got any air between them. That does mean pulling the yarn through is going to be a bit difficult, but with a bit of a wiggle and a bit of a pull and a manipulation of your pincher fingers, look at that. That's much denser there. But there's actually a different way of doing your decrease. If I come back, and that is a different technique completely. It's called the invisible decrease. And what it is, it's going through the front loop. So you were virtually there, Jimmy. You're right with where to put it. And what it does is, so for keeping, you could be on a low hook, and if you're keeping tighter tension so you don't pull up too far, normally on crochet, you're going through under both V's. So I'm going to do that. That's what you would normally do. You would punch through and you would pull up your loop. Well, on the invisible decrease, you're going to go through the front loop only. And what that then does is it pushes the back loop down and flat. So it almost covers up any stuffing because the back loop, can you see? The back loop is pushed behind. But what you do is this, Bertus, if you haven't done the invisible decrease. So you go through the front loop only. You go through the front loop of one, but you don't do any yarn over yet. You then go through the front loop of the next one. This is almost like knitting, how we're picking up our stitches. So they're your two stitches, and we need to lose those and go from 2 to 1. So we just then yarn over and pull through all three. And look at that. Look how dense that is. No gap in that bit there at all. And then what happens is the back loops get pushed down flat and cover up any stuffing at all showing through. So let's just do it again. You're going through the front loop. This is the invisible decrease. Front loop, we're going to lose that one and that one. They're the two we want to decrease. We want to lose those two down to 1. Pull tight as well, so we aren't high, we haven't got saggy stitches, and pull through all three. Done. And then you do the next one. We want to lose that one and lose that one, pull through all three. Done. Look at that. There you are, Bertus. The invisible decrease. If you put invisible decrease in Google or YouTube, I'm sure there'll be a fair few tutorials appearing. But there we are. So hook size, if you're already using that technique. Don't pull up your loops too much if you're already using that technique. Those two can help. And if you've never used that technique of invisible decrease, then use that one as well. You could do all three. Let us know how you get on. Always nice to know. That's inspired you to do some crochet now, isn't it, Jimmy? Does it float your boat at all, crochet? Do you ever think, oh, I should do more of it? Or do you just like, I love my knitting too much?
I think in summer, because I don't think that there are many good summer knit patterns for men. And honestly, I've tried to like come up with some myself, and it's like a block mentally. But I think that crochet men's summer tops are probably it. So I'm usually tempted a little bit in summer, but aside from that, not a tremendous amount. Every once in a while, I want to take on like a big crochet blanket thing. I refuse to knit a blanket, but I'll do a crochet blanket.
It's in my head, crochet suits blankets. Definitely, for sure. That idea of winter and crocheting in the round, going round and round and round, granny square, or sewing lots of squares together. I still need to do a crochet jumper. There's a cool crochet vest top. I'll see if I can remember to put it in the description below. That's what I wanted to do one summer. I think it was last summer, and it was done with two colours. I can't remember who that was. I wonder if that was Kelly. That might have been the Cocky crocheter. That's it. I can't remember if it was one of his patterns. It was a two-tone, and it looked like the top colour was dribbling into the colour below, like an ice cream.
Well, that's cool.
It was cool. I'll have to dig that one out. Okay, last question. At the beginning of a row, this is Jenny. At the beginning or end of a row, do you ever slip a stitch to keep the sides neat, or do you have another method of keeping them from being too loose? Oh, Jenny, this is a huge question, actually. Very good question. It's one of those questions where I don't think there's a right answer or not. It's almost one of those questions where it's passed down by whoever taught you to knit. It's one of those law sort of things. Jimmy, what would you say?
It depends what I'm doing. If it's like a scarf or a shawl or something, I tend to slip a stitch and my preference is the end of the row. It could be beginning of row or end of the row, it doesn't matter. But I tend to slip one. But what that does is, even though it's an elongated stitch, it is a bit looser. And so sometimes, depending on your tension and how things go, it can look maybe neat, maybe not so neat. There are a couple of different edge stitch things, but I usually just go with like an I-cord edge or just a slip one if I want to do a nice edge. I would not do it if I'm doing like a pieced garment or something like that. I would keep those stitches as is. Those are going to be incorporated into the seams anyway, and it's a lot easier to do if you have those stitches. There are different ways to do it, but that's not the question. But so yeah, if I need to do a nice, clean, exposed finish edge, I'll usually do that like slip I-cord or just slip one stitch.
Yeah, I think it also depends on how you knit and the skill of the knitter. So I have a friend who has been knitting since, I think she was about 2 or 3, Mandy, and she knits for the shop. She'll do private commissions. She's a teacher by day, and when she gets home, out she knits. It's her life. She always said to me, no matter what she does, she slips the first stitch and pulls the last. But she is such a knitter where it's just ingrained in her. That's what she does, because I presume that's what her mum taught her. So therefore, whenever she follows a pattern, it's just ingrained in it. If you start doing this, you might then get messed up, because it needs to be something that you do all the time regardless. So I don't advise doing that if you're going to start a new pattern, because you can easily forget, and you'll forget to slip because you'll be looking at the pattern, because the pattern says row 15 knit 4, and then you just knit 4 rather than slipping. So it does come down to your approach and your style and how you were taught, I think. But I suppose it's all about that edge, and as you say, it gets lost in the seam. But I suppose it depends on how different a slip stitch looks compared to a knit. I suppose it does look different, so therefore sewing up is easier, I guess.
I don't know. Especially people pick up stitches for like sleeve holes wrong all the time, and it irritates me. Okay. But I'm not going to say anything because that's just how they do. Yeah. Maybe that elongated stitch helps you read your knitting, so you pick up in the right spot. I personally don't like that because when you do like for a garment, let's say, like the echo that we were showing, was that last episode?
It was, yeah, last episode, yeah.
It was last episode, sorry. And if you were to do that, sometimes it says a pickup rate is typically 2 out of every 3 stitches if you're going like vertical on the horizontal. So when you have that slip stitch that you're doing, that's 2 stitches. And so you would have to try to figure out how to pick up 2 within that because it's longer. So like if it's just an edge that you know you're gonna either pick up from or incorporate into a seam, I don't like it because of that. I like the extra stability of having the knit or the purl or however you do it on that, and it helps me count better. So you can do that. But like I said, with a scarf or something, then you're in a different territory with that. But like I'm not a fan for it for garment knitting at all.
I think Jenny asked it because she's just discovered the I-cord, and we were knitting bunting because I've still got the bunting from VE Day 80, and a lot of my ladies at the shop have now discovered the I-cord feature for an edge, and they're like, "Ooh, this is such a nice edge."
It's really nice,
isn't it? But yeah, you don't just start chucking that in your jumper knit for your what was the word you called it? A selvage. Yes. Yeah. Some people might start adapting patterns to include the way they want to do the selvage. That gets a bit complicated, and it could be messy. So I suppose, as Jimmy says, necessary. Don't worry about it as much because, as you say, it's all going to be gone in the seam anyway, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Keep it straightforward as much as possible, Jenny. Just follow the pattern. Yeah, follow the pattern. You could argue the designer would know best. If they wanted a specific style edge, then they would have incorporated that within their design, wouldn't they, Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, I've read some patterns where people incorporate it into the pattern where they're like, you have to do it this way to get this finish. Most don't. Most just sort of like leave that specific instruction out. Unless it's something very particular that they have in mind.
Brilliant. Okay, there we are. That's 3 questions done. 27, nearly bang on half hour. Perfect. That's what we aim for. 3 questions. They're around about 10 minutes each. It's going really well. Now, as this goes out, end of May sometime, Jimmy, I know you're going here, there and everywhere, and work's going through the roof. So we might be having a little break. So you might not hear us for a couple of weeks over June. Depends on whether we squeeze another pre-record in for you. But if that's the case, we'll have a little it's like a Netflix, a mid-season break, hey?
Yeah, I mean, I just can't do it. I'm so busy. No. Not only with work, but also with some knitting stuff, which is very exciting.
And this is top secret. You can't say anything, can you? No.
I can't really say anything.
It's going to be fabulous. I can't wait. Maybe when it gets closer, Untangled viewers might get announcement first before the whole world does. We'll see, but I know you're very busy, and fully respect that. So we might have June off, everyone, so we might see you sometime late June. We'll see how it goes, but for now, keep sending your questions in. The link is in the description below. Knitting or crochet, and if we don't know, very rare that Jimmy doesn't know anything knitting based, or me with yarn, with my experience in the shop, but like crochet, we've always got loads of friends and experts who can help us out. It's lovely having your company. Here's to another show done, and thanks for listening. Thanks, Jimmy, and we'll see you on the next one, or whenever it is after our mid-season break. Cheers, Jimmy. Ta-ra. Bye.